Greetings, I am Wham Bam Duel, and welcome to my explanation of Spell Commander's latest deck profile, the Modern Joey Wheeler. I highly recommend watching his video first, as this one is meant to go more into depth with some of the choices made when creating this deck. Starting off with the main deck monsters, let's establish the basic outline I had for them. Thanks to the new Metal Morph support, we finally have a bridge that allows Red Eyes and Flame Swordsman to be somewhat decent in the same deck profile. I pretty much tried to go for that combination while bridging those gaps with Gemini cards and Gearfried cards, since Red Eyes is no stranger to its share of Gemini monsters. The standard Red Eyes is an auto-include, and the rest of these top row Red Eyes cards just fall neatly into place. I know Red Eyes Baby Dragon isn't very good, but I did feel somewhat compelled to play these Red Eyes retrains of old Duel Monsters era cards like Baby Dragon and Summon Skull. Archfiend of Lightning not being able to be used as fusion material from the deck with a Red Eyes fusion will always be frustrating to me, but Joey has other fusion spells, so he can still make Archfiend Black Skull Dragon if he really wants to. The Gearfried and Flame Swordsman cards feel right at home since Red Eyes also uses equip cards like Black Metal Dragon. And since there's a lot of overlap between the Fire Warrior and Gemini cards in this deck, Sublimation Knight felt like the perfect marriage between the Red Eyes and Fire Warrior halves of the deck aside from all the Metal Morph stuff, which is also fantastic, don't get me wrong, but I like to think of Sublimation Knight and Gemini's Lord Golk Knight as reminiscent of all the tertiary warriors that Joey used to play in the old days like Axe Raider and Rocket Warrior. The Metal Morph stuff, though, is what really brings the deck together. I like to think of the Metal Morph deck as Joey's version of Yugi's Shining Sarcophagus deck, and I really hope they continue to make Red Eyes and Flame Swordsman support in this Metal Morph direction to bring them even closer together and hopefully incorporate some of Joey's other cards in them. As for the cards in the side deck, I wanted to add the original Time Wizard as material for the Time Wizard fusion, although it is more designed to be summoned off of instant fusion in this profile for a quick board wipe, but you can also summon it with the original Time Wizard, and it's an iconic card for Joey. Jinzo and Psychic Mega Cyber are both just good cards all around. I know the Mega Cyber retrain is more designed for Esparoba, but we see Joey using Fiend Mega Cyber as well, and the original Fiend Mega Cyber is a warrior, so at least this one is searchable off of Guilty as Soul Spear. Speaking of cards searchable off of Guilty as Soul Spear, I'm sure some people are puzzled as to why the legendary Fisherman is in this deck, even if it's just chilling in the side deck. To start, I wanted each category of Guilty as effect to have a valid search target. And secondly, Fisherman is a warrior-type monster with a unique attribute in this deck, making it prime fusion material for Guilty Gilfried the Magical Steel Knight, though it can also still be fusion material for the Time Wizard fusion, or for Red Eyes / Dragon, of course. It's one of the examples of when a card is more useful for its stat line than anything else. If there was a better level 5 Water Warrior I could have put in this spot, I'd have done it, but the Legendary Fisherman 2, General Wayne, Royal Knight, Salvage Warrior, and Deep Sea Warrior just don't hold the same sentimental value to Joey that the original Legendary Fisherman might. Yes, technically 2's stat lines are better, but I'll be real, I think regardless of which version Joey runs, neither is actually going to hit the field. He's pretty much solely here to be searched and then used as fusion material. Then we get to 100 Dragon and the Dragon Rulers. 100 Dragon's pretty much a given here, it's just a decent good stuff card. As for the Dragon Rulers, I have a very specific plan for these iconic cards that once ruled the game with an iron fist. I plan to have one duelist from each of the first 4 eras wield a unique Dragon Ruler from the original Elemental 4. So far we've seen Chaz with Tempest, and now Joey with Blaster. Write down in the comments your predictions for who will have the Earth and Water Dragon Rulers. I already know the picks in my own head, and I won't tell you if you guess correctly, but I'd like to see what you come up with. As for Lord of the Red, I still wanted it to be in this list since it's so iconic, but I had trouble fitting it into the main deck, so it's chilling out here too. Of course, in the original series, Joey did play quite the smorgasbord of monsters, so as usual, I'll explain various cards that got left out. Starting with the unused Red Eyes monsters, there's Red Eyes Darkness Dragon, who's really more of an Atticus Rhodes Night Shroud card from GX, and sure, the same could technically be said for Darkness Metal Dragon, but the difference is that Darkness Metal Dragon is actually a good card. There's also the original Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon, but since we have the much better retrain in Full Metal, the need for this one is non-existent. As much as I love these cards, we'll be skipping over the Red Eyes Zombie Dragons, since their strategy is far and away different from anything Joey would actually play. Meteor Dragon Red Eyes Impact is far too slow, even for a Gemini monster. And its Gemini effect is one of the worst of the Red Eyes archetype, since it only protects other Red Eyes cards, and its stat line isn't very good. It can just be beaten over or destroyed with any removal piece. Red Eyes Wyvern's recovery effect is a little too slow for a deck like this. Retro Dragon's recovery, though, is interesting, and I do like that it's based on the Time Machine card from the duel between Joey and Bandit Keith, but now we have a much better Time Machine card in Time Engine from the Metal Morph archetype. Black Dragon's Chick has been extremely power crept and is not worth playing. Also more of an Atticus card than a Joey one. Paladin of Dark Dragon's effects are a bit too slow, since Black Stone of Legend can basically do the same thing without having to find a ritual spell and a ritual monster. And now onto some of the warriors that got left out. We'll start with Gearfried and Flame Swordsman cards, since those two at least have some presence in the deck. Light Ray Gearfried is out because Joey has next to no light monsters besides the Time Wizards, so he's definitely not getting 5 of those things anytime soon. The original Phoenix Gearfried is a powerful Gemini monster that'd go well with all the support in this list, but to be honest, there just wasn't room for it here. The Gemini cards were meant to be sort of a marriage between Red Eyes and Fire Warriors through Sublimation Night, and by adding the somewhat bricky Phoenix Gearfried in, I think it'd tip the balance a little too far. Besides, we have Immortal Phoenix Gearfried, which is just far better. As for the original Gearfried and Swordmaster, there are just better things we can do with the resources that could have obtained these cards, and the retrains are just a lot better. Blue Flame Swordsman is the only Flame Swordsman that's actually left out of this list, and it got left out because it just doesn't really play well with the rest of the Flame Swordsman cards. Fighting Flame Swordsman is easily the best retrain of the OG we have today. Now, I'm not going to cover every single monster Joey used, so I'm just going to go over some of the more prominent cards that got left out. For Guilford the Lightning, I knew right away people were going to be disappointed that he isn't here, but having to invest 3 monsters in a 2800 attack board wipe is just too much to ask for nowadays. And Joey has better board wipes on cards like Time Engine, and better removal on cards like Full Metal and Immortal Phoenix. I know I'm playing a bunch of cards Joey won in Battle City in this list, but Insect Queen is where I draw the line. At least Joey had positive duels and friendships with Roba and Mako. Weevil is just toxic as hell. Not to mention the absolute lack of any kind of synergy either of the Insect Queen cards could possibly have in this list. Panther Warrior is a 2000 attacker that requires a sacrifice to attack, and that cost is nowhere near worth the reward anymore. Rocket Warrior is just too slow. It's so much effort to just sink an enemy monster by 500 attack. With those resources, you could probably just remove the opposing monster by that point. For Alligator's Sword, the baby dragon that could have fused with this monster to make Alligator's Sword Dragon has since been turned into a Red Eyes monster, and even then, Alligator's Sword Dragon just isn't very good. And now, onto the back row. I feel like all these are pretty understandable choices. We got fusion spells, Red Eyes support, Flame Swordsman support, Metal Morph cards, and Gemini and Fire Warrior support, so these all just fit really nice together. Once again, Catalyst Field is just going to carry the Geminis as the de facto Red Eyes field spell until we get a better one. In the side deck, we wanted to give a nod to Joey's gambling addiction. So we chose the iconic Roulette Spider from the Roboduel, as well as Second Coin Toss because sometimes even Joey needs a second chance, Gamble, which is probably the highest risk, highest reward card in this deck, the iconic Fairy Box, and the actually pretty good Head Judging, which can negate and steal monsters if you get the coin flip right. Now on to the back row that got left out. Starting with the Red Eyes cards, Cards of the Red Stone might seem like a decent gain in card advantage, but aside from using cards like Return of the Red Eyes, Joey wants to keep his Red Eyes monsters on his field and in his hand or deck for fusion material. Inferno Fire Blast can make a lot of damage when used in conjunction with Red Eyes fusion, but we aren't trying to play Red Eyes Burn FTK here, so I left it out because otherwise it can be kind of bricky. Same reasoning goes for Red Eyes Burn. Red Eyes Spirit is kind of slow for a Reborn card, which is why I went for Return of the Red Eyes instead, since it can reborn normal monsters that can be Gemini summoned once again, and it punishes the opponent for removing it. As for some of the Gemini Fire Warrior stuff that got left out, we've got Gear Breed, which was left out because the deck only has 2 actual equip spells, and a great deal of other Gemini cards were left out because they focus too heavily on the Gemini side of things, or are the chemical-related cards that don't fit the theme very well. Catalyst Field is the sole exception to that, of course, since it's the best field spell Red Eyes can possibly use right now. As for some of the other classic Joey backrow that got left out, we have Giant Trunade, which is banned, and its retrain Hey Trunade isn't really good enough to see play. Graceful Dice and Skull Dice may be iconic old gambling cards, but the 600 to 1200 with both difference is still hardly anything. Shield and Sword is left out, since the reversing of stats on most of these cards won't actually do any good. Most of these cards have higher attack than they do defense. There are a lot of retrains and reimaginings of Kunai with Chain, like Spike Shield with Chain and Blast with Chain, but I'd say we've got the 2 best ones with Red Eyes and Salamandra with Chain, so that's what's up with this card. Claw of Hermos and its fusion monsters have been left out since it'd take up far too much extra deck space for too little of a reward. Maybe if they make a Hermos retrain like what Yugi has for Timaeus and the Dark Magician, then we can start talking. Scapegoat's out since Joey can't even really use the goat tokens as viable link material in this deck, and they still can't be tributed for tribute summons. And with no Panther Warrior, they become little more than just blockers. As for the battle traps like Magical Arm Shield and Double Magical Arm Bind, they're just battle traps, enough said. Lastly, with the extra deck, I think it's the perfect ratio of Fire Warrior monsters, Gemini support, and Red Eyes cards with Time Wizard, Jinzo, and the Dragon Ruler sprinkled in just to split things up a little bit. With all that being said, I believe I've covered my bases. If there's anything else you think I've left out or that should be changed about this list, let me know your opinions in the comments. Till next time, I've been Wham Bam Duel, and I'm always happy to see ya.